we are conducting live fire training at this structure, which is going to entail our firefighters being out here, some on duty, some off duty, and operating as a team in live burn conditions with fires burning in this structure. We're going to be able to practice everything from pump operations, from the pumping of the trucks, to interior operations, to pulling lines, search and rescue for downed victims, potential downed victims. Ventilation practices. We're going to ventilate vertical ventilation and horizontal ventilation of the structure. All the newest techniques that are available to us out there, we're actually going to get to practice and experiment with those under supervised conditions. This house was brought to our attention through Tim Berg, through the Shawnee Economic Development Foundation, and we appreciate him making that contact with us and the homeowner. And we've been working with her to get this set up, and her allowing us to do this on her property. A typical house fire, NFPA talks about a typical house fire being roughly 2,000 square foot, two-story residence. For us, the 2,000 square foot or less applies in Shawnee. We do have some multi-story residences. For us, it's an all-hands event in Shawnee. We'll have all 3 stations will respond to a structure fire response. We'll typically have 13 on duty each day. So NFPA says you need to have at least 14 on scene within the first 8 minutes, 90% of the time. So we come close to meeting that standard with our current staffing. The responsibilities, incident command is the first thing. The battalion chief on duty, the shift supervisor on duty will set up incident command. That gives us our accountability, so we know where our firefighters are at, make sure that they're not in harm's way, that we understand where they are and what everybody understands what their assignment is. One of the first things that the incident commander is going to find out is if the place is occupied, if there's anybody in the residence, or if everybody's out of the residence, and that makes a big time determination on what our tactics are going to be, and then from there, fire conditions is going to be the next thing that determine tactics. If the fire is too advanced to go inside, then you take a defensive approach until you can get offensive, or if they feel like they can make an aggressive attack and maybe knock the fire out based on the conditions that are presenting outside the structure, they'll do that. In this house, this is 5800 North Kickapoo. We're very excited about this house. We are using this for live fire training, live burn training, which is something we've never been able to do in Shawnee. We don't have a dedicated training facility, so we do try to take advantage of structures as they come available that are going to be destroyed, but we typically can't burn in those because they're too close to other structures. So this is the first one, because of its location, that we've been able to do this at. We're very excited about it. With this house, we are practicing ventilation practices, search and rescue, interior firefighting operations, exterior firefighting operations, and pump operations. It's very valuable to our department to be able to practice these things under live burn conditions with live fires going in this house, but under a safe environment as well. Inside the house, the guys are using all their senses. They can't see because of the smoke, so they're using their hearing, they're using the thermal imaging cameras that we have to see through the smoke. They're using their experience, and they're using the sense of touch, because they're staying in touch with the walls and the floor to know where they are, and also their sense of experience in other structures to understand kind of probably what the layout is of the house, even if they don't know this house, but they understand hallways generally lead to bedrooms, into restroom facilities, that kind of stuff. They can see that stuff on the outside of the house. They can see the vents coming through the roof, and they kind of have an idea where the restroom is, where the kitchen is. So that's the kind of thing. And then they're looking for victims. If they're doing a search and rescue operation, they're looking for victims. And they have an idea where people typically tend to go in a fire and hide. They're also looking for fire. If they're not looking for someone, then they're looking for the fire, and find the best way to get to that fire and extinguish it with the least amount of water needed. Our communications, we're using our 800 megahertz radio system, which again is something that's great for us to train on, because that is the most challenging aspect of a fireground operation typically, is going to be your communications. The radios we have are great, but in a fireground condition, it's difficult. With an SCBA on, it's hard to hear, and it's hard for the guy outside, the incident commander, to hear back from his people and understand what they're doing. So this again is a wonderful training opportunity for us to see what works best. We can stop if we need to, and reevaluate and try some things with communications to see what works best, and that will help us in the future when you don't have a chance to stop on an actual live burn. This is live burn training, but when you have an actual house fire, you can't stop and start over. On this, we can if we need to. This training is invaluable for us. It makes us that much better prepared to deal with the next actual fire that comes in, and that much better prepared to bring those new tactics in, and better prepared to take care of our citizens.